very much. I really appreciate it. And the hockey story, I just love the Washington Capitals. It's funny, I often joke with people that it's been far more difficult to be a fan of the Washington Capitals than it has been to be an openly gay person. Because thankfully there are a lot more gay people than fans of the Washington Capitals. Although that has fortunately begun to change. Exactly, as they're getting better. I'm pleased to report one small piece of business for Unitarian Universalists in Maryland. Our caucus over the last year grew by a whopping third. As Delegate Al Carr, who also represents the 18th District, also joined the Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church with his family. So we're now up to 4. I guess all that proselytizing exactly has been going well. So, and you're going to hear from 2 of us this morning. Earlier this week, I had a chance to attend a truly remarkable speech that the Montgomery County Executive Legislator gave on the Martin Luther King Day. And he started the speech in a way that I'd love to share and do the same thing this morning. And that is, he recounted, and like probably most of you who at some point have had little children, my husband and I have 2 little children who are now 6 and 3, and we have a minivan. And you know, when we go to start out a trip of any length, you pack the minivan. You know, it's a very different experience than when I was a child, because the minivan has the DVD player built into it, and you can plug. They're not yet into video games, but you can eventually plug in the whole system. But you have things to distract them for the journey, so that they're not hopefully sitting in the back of the seat complaining or fighting. But you pack up everything you can to get set for the journey. And as we know, a few minutes into the journey, the question is asked, are we there yet? Exactly. And I realize that as adults right now, while we may stop actually asking that question from the back seat of the car, we really never stop asking that question. And I think politically right now, that's a good way to express the feeling of the public. As we suffer through an economic downturn, there are just a lot of people saying, are we there yet? And they want to be there now. And they're frustrated that they're not there yet. When I started to think about the speech, I've been going back this year several times to, I think, a remarkable speech, and I was tempted to just read it today. That was Franklin Roosevelt's second inaugural address from 1937, because it has a lot of points that are still incredibly valid today. But I just wanted to share one paragraph with you, which I think speaks to the situation that we find ourselves in today. We of the Republic sense the truth that democratic government has innate capacity to protect its people against disasters once considered inevitable, to solve problems once considered unsolvable. We would not admit that we could not find a way to master economic epidemics, just as after centuries of fatalistic suffering, we found a way to master epidemics of disease. We refuse to leave the problems of our common welfare to be solved by the winds of chance and the hurricanes of disaster. And when we look at the budget today and the problems that we face at the federal level or the state level, and how the budget is going to dominate our discussion during the 2010 session, I think it's very important to think about how he closes that paragraph, the winds of chance and the hurricanes of disaster, and how since the 30s to today we have built a system of protections for our fellow man through the government that are working quite well right now, and people are not giving the government credit and giving ourselves as a community credit for what we are accomplishing. If you look at our budget right now, Maryland is at a time where over the last 4 years, our budget that's supported by our own revenues has pretty much been flat. I mean, the governor's budget that he just proposed last week in FY11 is pretty much in line exactly with what we were spending in 2007. So overall spending has nudged up because the federal government has been giving us money. Why? Because more people are turning to the government than ever before. When you look at the comparison between when this term started in 2007 and where we are today, we've gone from 620,000 people receiving medical assistance through the government, more or less Medicare, Medicaid, the government insurance, to 820,000. We've gone up by almost a third the number of people in Maryland who are receiving food stamps. We have doubled the number of people who are receiving both temporary assistance for needy families and temporary assistance for disabled people. These are all of our, in essence, our safety net programs. I don't know if you know this in the paper, but the number of children receiving free and reduced price meals in our school system has shot up. In Montgomery County, which many people would look at as one of the, and truly is one of the wealthiest communities in the country, a 10% increase in one year, to the point where nearly a third of the students in Montgomery County public schools are now eligible for free and reduced price meals. We have had a shocking change in our community, and the government is responding to that by putting money into many of the programs that we support. And I think the challenge that we support as Unitarian Universalists, the challenge that we face this year is going to be how to sustain that during a time when many of our neighbors, and it's reflected in many of our colleagues in the General Assembly, are growing anxious about the direction of both the country and the government and government spending. Because what are the alternatives? I worked for many years with someone at the Montgomery County government who, when we would actually talk, when we would be in meetings, he would always pose the question, if we meet success, what will it look like? And I sometimes want to stand up when I hear some of my, and I don't mean to be too partisan, but when I hear some of my more conservative colleagues stand up and talk about a different approach to spending and say, all right, let's just say you win. If we do what you want, if you meet success, what will it look like? What is it that you want out of the government? What is it that you want our country to look like? Do you want people living in shanty towns once again, like the 1930s? Do you want the pictures of the people lined up around blocks waiting for food in soup kitchen lines? Because that's what happened in the 1930s. And the difference between what happened then and what happened now is the safety net that we created, the safety net that is working correctly, the safety net that we should be proud of as a society that we're making sure happens. I really didn't pay Mike to come today. we didn't even drive together, really. So yeah, exactly. But I guess maybe for the people of District 18, I guess he's my one employer who's really in the room as a voter in the district. So, but we should be proud of the accomplishments. We shouldn't run and hide right now. It's been one of the most depressing things over the last few days after the election in Massachusetts is the desire of people to now run and hide because of one election. Speaker Mike Bush, who you honored a few years ago with this same award, who is truly one of the great people in the General Assembly and someone who works very hard on a day-to-day basis. He gave a rousing speech on the Tuesday before session. We have the Democratic Party lunch, and we have a chance to have all the elected officials from around the state to come together, and you hear from Mikulski and Cardin and the governor and all the different people, and the Speaker and the President of the Senate. And Speaker Bush